Hey, welcome back to the Spot for Fantasy Footballers. I'm Asa Rehman. It's been a minute since the Euro Fantasy videos, and in that time I moved across the country and I'm now in my new house, my new office. I'm very excited about it, but that's also why you'll see some boxes behind me and a very empty wall that I'm excited to fill with some footy pictures and posters and all that other fun stuff. But you're not here for interior design tips. You're here obviously for fantasy football tips, so we'll get right to it. I will be going over a little bit of housekeeping in this video, but I'll also reveal my first FPL draft team, so you don't want to miss that. In regards to the housekeeping, I just want to let you know what you can expect to see on the YouTube channel this upcoming season. I started this channel back in January, focusing primarily on fantasy draft content, and I've absolutely loved it, and the support from the FPL draft community has been great, so thank you so much for that. But I also really enjoyed the Euro fantasy content that I created during Euro 2020. So I'll be adding more content to the channel this upcoming season as I take the FPL conventional, traditional game a little more seriously, to see how high I can finish. 8 million people played last season. That number's expected to go up even more. I'm excited to finish, hopefully in the top 10,000. We'll see how it turns out though, and I'm excited to bring you along that journey. But don't worry, if you're here for the fantasy draft content, that will continue as well. And I've got some exciting videos coming up ahead of the upcoming season. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, ding the bell so you don't miss any of the fantasy content here on The Spot. And the other bit of housekeeping I need to do is give the prize pack out to our Euro Fantasy League winner. That honor goes to Patty Losty with 449 points. So if you're watching, Daniel Burke 2694, hit me up in the comments or on Twitter at TheSpot4FF, and we'll get that prize pack to you. Just need a screen grab or a pic of your team just to verify that it is you, and then we'll get that prize pack to you courtesy of Kickoff Coffee Company. If I don't hear back from Daniel Burke 2694, then anyone else on this list, hit me up in the comments and I'll give that prize pack to the highest ranked response based on that leaderboard. And if you're not on that leaderboard, then just use the promo code SPOT15 to get 15% off your purchases at the Kickoff Coffee Company. I'll have the details in the description, so check it out. Okay, now the part that you've been waiting for, the Spot's first FPL team selection for the 2021-2022 season. And what you're seeing there on the screen is basically what was my auto-selected team, but I've gotten rid of all the players. So we're essentially starting from scratch here and attempting to stay under the cap, of course. The first thing I will do is get my two goalkeepers, try to do this as efficiently as possible, and try to find some cost-effective options here. Some decent options in the £5 million range. And Bernd Leno, Ilham Elie, two that are standing out to me. Kasper Schmeichel as well. I've had him in the past, so I wouldn't mind that. But for the time being, I'm going to get Lukas Fabianski for now, and then potentially change that as we get closer to the deadline, the actual deadline. And then the second keeper I'm going to trying to get someone a little bit cheaper here. I'm not going with the super cheap option at $4 million, getting someone that doesn't play. I'd rather have a player that does participate and potentially earn points, and that's Sanchez of Brighton. Had a pretty good season last year, so $4.5 million for him. I think that's good value. Okay, now I'm going to address the defenders. I'm going to get three defenders before moving on to midfielders and forwards. The first defender I'm going to take, I want to get people that I like. Value, obviously important to me. A lot of people getting Trent Alexander-Arnold, £7.5 million for him. I think a little bit too much at this stage, so I'm going to get Reece James. Really like the potential there. £5.5 million, I think, is pretty good value if he does indeed play significantly for Thomas Tuchel's side. We'll see how that turns out. Lewis Dunk's the next one I'm going to get, £5 million for him. I think that's pretty good value. So I've got Reece James and Lewis Dunk, two solid starters, and then this other one, Luke Shaw. I know a lot of people getting him, and for good reason. I think he is poised for another great campaign with Manchester United, so taking him £5.5 million. Now to the midfield, and you saw I had Kevin De Bruyne. I'd love to have him in my lineup, but not to start. I'm going to get Son to start, £10 million. Some people have him in the lineup, some don't. I'm going to go with him, a player that I've always liked, just so much potential, so much talent, can't deny it. So starting with him, second midfielder, I think I've got to go back to Chelsea. I am a Chelsea supporter, and I think when you're building a fantasy team, it's good to have some players that you like. Mason Mount's the one I'm going to go with, 7.5 million pounds. So again, going for value. Some other really good options there. Obviously, Kai Havertz is the one at 8.5 that a lot of people are talking about and potentially adding to the lineup. I'm going to go Mount for now. And then the third one, again, I want to get a player that I really like, good value as well. So I'm going to go with Rafinha as a third midfielder. And now we can start addressing our attackers, our forwards, if you will. And plenty of different ways to go here. It's nice that you have all these options to pick from. Calvert-Lewin was in the auto-selected team, and he's a player that I'll probably end up adding. But I want to start with Edinson Cavani because I think he's just such a consistent player for Manchester United. He is essential to their attack, so deem him essential for my team. We'll see if he makes the final cut, but for now, I think he's my first selection as a striker. And then the second one, I'm going to take probably Calvert-Lewin, Ollie Watkins too, that I like. Similar value as well for both of those strikers. Callum Wilson looking at me as well. And then Mikel Antonio, 7.5 million pounds. I think that's really good for him and a player of his caliber, but I'm going to move it to Calvert-Lewin for now. 8 million pounds for DCL. I'm going to start with him, and I'll look a little bit closer at the matchups later on. For the time being, this is just players that I think are good value overall. Pukki could be one of those as well, but instead I'm going to go St. Max, 6.5 million pounds. A lot of different opinions for St. Max at that value. He's now a forward instead of a midfielder as he was last season. I think he still has potential to produce, so we're going to go with him for the time being. And then go back to the defenders now, and I'm still looking for value here because I'd rather spend in the midfield if I can. An option would be obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold. I don't have him in the lineup yet, but I could add him here and then spend a little bit less in the midfield. But I'm going to try to find some value picks for the defenders, and then address my midfield. So Kyle Walker-Peters is exactly that. Really good value, I believe. As long as he's healthy, he produces. And we saw that last season. And the last one I'm going to take, I was thinking Ait Nouri as a potential pickup here, 4.5. A lot of pretty good, like 4.5 million pound options here. And quickly cycling through here, you having a look at all of them. A lot to look at, lots to get through. But I'm going to go back to a player who was with Brighton, potentially on the move, potentially joining Arsenal. Ben White, 4.5 million pounds. I think that could be a pretty good fit, but we'll see how that situation plays out. Now, two midfielders. I'm going to try to go value first, and think of keeping in mind productivity. So a player that can produce and is still good value. And I think the best option for that would be Thomas Souček, if I can find him. I think Souček and we saw it last year, right? Performed really well. So 6 million pounds for him, 11.3% selected. Again, didn't want to be distracted by that, but just pointing that out. So now I have 12 million pounds to work with, and I can spend. And the two at the top, the three at the top there, De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, and Sadio Mane. And I think De Bruyne is the one that I think is the best of the group, just talent-wise. He's there, and then he's got the supporting cast immensity as well, and then he plays. So I think you can't go wrong with De Bruyne. So 12 million pounds for him. That is a person I'm going to lock in there, and I feel pretty good about this team now. Not the final team by any means. I will be making some changes, and probably have a couple more videos revealing the changes to my team selection. Okay, that wraps up the first selection video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. It is the spot for fantasy footballers. And let me know what you think of my selections. Hit me up in the comments or on Twitter at @thespot4ff or at Asa Rehman. All right, enjoy the rest of your week, your weekend, whatever you're doing. Do it safely. Thanks so much for hanging out at The Spot.